All right. So it lit up red. It looks like we're hot. I like using that term, hot, Randy. Anyway,
Yeah.
thanks. So we're not going to rush it. We're going to give it a couple seconds just to make sure. Usually when it hits 15, um, no worries, no problems, and we just did. So, good evening, everybody, and welcome to America Disclosing Uncensored, part of the Oracle Talk Radio Network as well. With me tonight is Randy Rhodes, and we're going to be talking about some things and playing some information on what was going down today. This is like the first 100 hours of Trump. And when you compare his first 100 hours, he's got more done than the Biden administration got done in the first 100 days. So we're going to be going over some of that stuff. In the meantime, Randy, I just want to verify, double check. Why don't you say hi to everybody, and I'll just check to make sure that.
Sure. Hey, everybody. This is Randy Rhodes of All Roads Lead Home Genealogy from Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it is. As a matter of fact, okay. I'm just making sure that we did go through public because of what does go on, editing posts and so forth, and privacy. So I'm just going to double check it. Okay, we are reading public. That's always good. So if you like and share tonight, that would be fantastic because, hey, look, guys, we're still in a war. We really are. And that's where I want to start off, Randy. Get some of your commentary in here also on it. And why I'm saying that is, the actions of the reactions that Trump has taken immediate action within. Because there are things that are existing out there, and these people are still embedded deep. While we're concentrating on everything and mainly border and illegals to be removed, there's actions like in my city of Pittsburgh that are going on. I sent you, I think, a paper on that. Did you read through that?
I did get a chance to look it over. Let me just pull it back up here so we can be on the same page here. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, and like you said, that he has done so much
Hello,
in
Joe.
just a few short hours that compared to the Biden administration, I even have to say the first 1 or 2 years of the Biden administration, he's done a lot more.
Oh, most definitely. And he's changed the tactic for California just
Oh my
by
God, yeah.
presentation of his representation of of the power of his words and putting the finger in their face. And we already have water now rerunning all through California. It's the military corps of engineers went in, got everything running, got the water turned back on. We're seeing a lot of good things happen, but again, going back to these cells, I'll give everybody an example. I tried to send people a little memo as to what was going on in the city of Pittsburgh and what the hearing was about today. And this Mayor Gainey has created an additional package on the zoning amendments that we have in place. Now, these were put in place because they were representations to the rights of the public, for people to be able to pick areas, make it thrive, create a business, build a building, and so forth like that. When all the while, in the background, it's notorious. It's basically an attack on citizens, and this is why I was trying to say to everybody, share it everywhere, not just because something like this is going to hurt our quality of life and the trade and business and so forth. It's bigger than that. If they can establish this to happen within the city, then it will go into the county. When it goes into the county, then it will start to spread like that virus. That virus will start to spread to the other little blue dots on the map that don't show up because it was so brilliantly red because of the vote. So when we concentrate on the vote, the blue disappears, but it still exists. There are places within us, amongst us, that have these deep cells. Some of them are within our own leadership of government playing this role. So I will say to people, is the deep state, is Harris, is Biden still here amongst us? Remember now, everybody, she was utilizing Pittsburgh to be that part of the narrative. But as I get into this a little bit here, because we're not going to spend a ton of time on it, but it's just the awareness where people need to understand this network of sanctuary wasn't about everything about protecting these illegals, adults. It was a human trafficking, smuggling, scheming, nefarious plan against children,
Hmm.
more than anything, against the children, and having a place to do it. And when something like this comes up, and they're trying to change everything, the next thing what will come will be eminent domain, to be paid under the lesser value for a property to get you out of it, to make their change continue for the 2030, hoping that they can get back. But what we can't take off the plate in this, and again, why I tried to share this everywhere, is because we need to shut these small bundles of cells down everywhere. While Trump's working on the big things, he still needs us in the game. He needs us to fight back, to show up at these things, or at least if we're incapable of going out and fighting in a physical manner at a location, doing it right here. And that's exactly why Donald Trump today put on the whitehouse.gov for the freedom of press, for us, for who we are. Me as an analyst, a journalist, somebody who covers and tries to do everything the same as you do. Outside of what you do on your normal day of work, helping people with genealogy and ancestry. So I'm going to throw that the ball to your court now. Giving you some of the perspective as I have. How do you feel about what I'm telling you? How does America feel about what I'm saying, that they are still here?
You know, uh, the fact that there's 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 still things being done in the background. It's like you're saying, President Trump and his people are hitting the big target areas. Okay, the border, the drones, and things like that. The water situation in California, the dump trucks that he got sent to North Carolina. He's hitting all the big targeted. You still have these small areas where the Democrats still have control because I don't think they realize that they actually lost the election. I think they still think that they are here. They're going to keep nibbling away at what President Trump is trying to do to accomplish something to come back in a couple of years when I guess the Senates are up for election, and 4 years when the presidential election is back. But you know, they have things in place like these children who are still uh, uh, missing.
Right.
The city, Pittsburgh, and other cities who are fighting the Trump administration to keep the illegals in their hotels and in their housing developments, and they're still trying to find a way to take what we have. It's kind of hard for me to say, your homes. It's like you're saying to the domain to say your property is being condemned, and here's $10 on the dollar, or not $10 on 10 cents on the dollar for the property value. They are trying to cling to what they have to maintain some sense of being with the Democrat citizens, the people who vote Democrat. It's like Fetterman. He was saying earlier that there are a lot of things that Trump does that he can stand by and support, but he's still a Democrat, and there's still things that he's going to do for his people in Pennsylvania. We're going to have a tug of war kind of scenario where the schools who are lying, saying that the ICE are going in there and they're breaking into the schools and taking these kids away, and that's not what's happening at all. Um, it's it's almost like you have that damn scratch you just can't reach, and you keep going after it to scratch it, and it's always going to be there
Right.
until you actually get that scratch, and that the hand claw you do to get back in behind your back to scratch it away. Uh, the Democrats are trying to maintain some sense of being even though they've lost, they haven't accepted it. That's like was it Gomez, the actress. Uh, she did a video where she's on there and she's crying. Oh, my people! What have they done? The children. Oh, the poor children. All I can do something to help you. Oh, what's they doing? They're just. And if she only realized that, the people who are being deported are criminals. It's like the ones in New York that is arrested for multiple violations of children, and he's still here, but he finally got arrested and he's going back.
Right.
I don't know. I really don't know what you have to weed out all these Democrats, clean them out, start from scratch, and say, this is how it's going to be. And if you don't like it, find yourself somewhere else. My city of Lancaster is starting to be more like the bigger cities, like a Pittsburgh, where the illegals are here and the Democrats are trying to take over, and it's not safe to live anymore. Um, we just got to hang together. Us, conservatives have to hang together and support Trump and I think Trump has this new program. It's called it's sort of like how the during the time of Germany with the brown shirts, where they were saying if you see something, turn them in scenario. And you had children turning in their parents and their family members for, saying bad things about Adolf. You have a similar thing where you got your neighbors now are starting to turn in your neighbor because they know that they're, part of a cartel or they're part of a terrorist group or something like that, or illegal. That guy that was in New York, he said that he was just getting ready to put a phone call into ICE. Say, hey, my neighbor, he's here. Come get him. You're going to start seeing more of that, where the people are going to start, turning in and stand up for themselves.
Well, they need to. They need to. So as we go through this, let's keep an eye on clocks, giving each other good timing to be able to both go back and forth in this discussion, because everything you said is greatly important. But I didn't bring a notepad and pencil because you touched on a lot of things that we need to touch on. So it's my fault, not yours. Again, you're pointing out good things, just like where I'm trying to make people wake up and be aware as what's going on behind scenes in their cities, if they are, of a popular blue vote in some capacity, that systems like this are the failures of what hurts the citizens. When you have things that could bring in drastic measures of zoning changes, that reduces values of homes. It limits your neighborhood of business and parking, because they do a structure that's totally different from what was once built and put in place, and it will change. It brings, different undesirable developments into the much of the homeless shelters as well. And then the effects of the buildings and businesses that will continue in the narrative that they've been leading the last 4 years to come to life. And this is where we got to stop that part of the life, and why we have to keep focused on it. Look, I come from a city who wants to change the city once again. And you know what? I'm not down for the council of the city. I'm not down for the county controllers. They're all in bed on this. When a county controller oversees a judge and does it anyway, there's a serious problem in the city of Pittsburgh. There is a very city problem here. And this Susan Amarato is one of these problems, not just Mayor Gainey, or the fact now that out of the blue, we're going to get council people that want to run for mayor that have been voting through a lot of these things the last 4 years, but suddenly they're going to make change to the city of Pittsburgh in America. And these are the same people that ran out of salt, that didn't service the streets, who couldn't even salt the street, who put in speed bumps instead of patching and doing road repairs. Yes, $10,000 a stretch for a speed bump at our cost, and yet the streets are filled with potholes. I mean, it's like rumbling. And now that you get the salt, the ice, the water getting into them, the roads are breaking up even more. They're not doing anything for preventive maintenance, yet they want us to have it. The same illustration of where the council members of Pittsburgh helped the vote to go through on a 36% property tax increase, then adding storm taxes recently, and over the last few years, a library tax, a park tax. Meanwhile, they're shutting down parks or taking Carnegie's name off the building, and yet we're supposed to live with that like it's perfectly fine. The playgrounds, the pools are closing, yet we're still being charged the tax. The sidewalks, now another new tax that was once gone, now coming back into focus, being talked about by these progressive groups who give themselves titles in areas throughout the city. So you have things like in the city of Pittsburgh, you have the Lawrenceville United and Lawrenceville Citizens Group. And you have these things where there's sometimes two groups with different plans of different focuses, but all fighting for that buck to go through their hands, to control that money, that element of it. All the while, you have now a mayor who's aiding and abetting citizens. And the Allegheny County controllers here is doing the same thing. Gainey doesn't support anything for safety for citizens. His actions are all above, like a president of an executive order and power. He promotes new world dictatorship. The police department is failed. It's falling apart. We've never had so many people leave who do not want to even be or participating to participate in the function of safety in our streets because they're all on stand-on orders. How do you get trained for a job? And then when you get in the job, you're told to stand on with what you learned from. It's mind-blowing, but that's part of, it's another part of what I'm trying to get at here that I think is really feasible on when it comes to the information. I once grew up here, Randy, and I'm going to cut myself short a little bit if you want to interject on any of this. What I once lived was as a person who was required to have permits for everything. You no longer seem to need permits if you fall into a diversity. The same as within our healthcare in Pittsburgh. If you had the shot or you didn't have the shot, the medical treatment was given two different ways. Not one way just to create and help and cure, but two different ways. You know, I've been calling myself outside of one of my commercial properties on a vehicle that's been abandoned for over 6 months, headed on the wrong way of the street towards traffic in an illegal parking area that says no parking, and they won't touch it. This is the leadership now who is stepping up to say, we're going to put this city through change. You're going to love us for it and have nothing from it. And it's going to be all on us. Look, the second division in this city is terrible also. Just to finish with this, when we call and say we need something done or ground weeds cleared or something that's blocking this or that, it takes 72 hours to a week to see any type of action. Meanwhile, they're parked just 2 miles from the location in any direction, and they can't physically take care of it with enough people on hand to do it. But if you want to find them sleeping in a truck somewhere hiding, that you can do.
You know, everything you said reminds me of years ago when I was younger, and you had the like you're saying, for an example, the abandoned cars. I'll give you a couple of personal examples. When we lived in New Jersey, my dad was stationed there, and he was told, this is going to be your last move. This is it. Or, Sergeant Rhodes, this is your last transfer. He bought this absolutely beautiful house in New Jersey. And it was close to the military base there. White picket fence. It was a rancher. It was gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. 1 year to the date, he got orders to move to England. So we went back afterwards after my dad, finally retired and so forth, went back to see it, the house the way it was. The picket fence was gone. The grass was knee high, if not higher. There were cars parked in the yard. Some of them were on cinder blocks. The tires were taken off. The entire neighborhood absolutely went to nothing because it was under Democrat, policy, a Democrat rule.
Control. I get it.
Control, and they didn't care. Here where I'm at now, in Lancaster, um, if our grass gets more than 2 inches high, the HOA is on us. Uh, if we paint the door or the frame of the house a different color because we wanted to change the color and it didn't match the scheme of the entire neighborhood, you had to redo it. If you wanted solar panels, you couldn't. The Democrats, in this respect, was putting down the clampers to keep us from doing what we want to do with our own properties. Um,
Yes. Yes.
and if you want a basketball net, that's fine, but the basketball net has to be portable. It has to be out of sight by a certain time. You want Christmas lights out, that's fine, but they have to be down, at the end of Christmas. If you want to decorate outside, it has to be, seasonable. You got to be taken in. It's just that in your situation where no one cared about the properties, to get rid of abandoned cars facing the opposite direction, opposing the direction, which could be essentially a traffic hazard. Because if I'm driving down the road and I see this car facing me, and my initial reaction is going to be this car is actually in motion and it's coming at me, and I'm going to react to swerve my car, not realize the car is actually parked. So in that respect, your area, the Democrats don't care. In my area, the Democrats care too damn much. There's no between with that. So I think Trump is going to bring more control back, more moderation to way life should be. Not right away. He's going to focus on the big pictures. He's going to want us to take care of the little things. And that's why the press secretary said she's bringing back all these people who, like you said for yourself, who are reporters who are, able to communicate and bring them in. So there's another way of looking at the press instead of having the liberals always in control of the narrative. We're going to bring in different voices, different viewpoints, different social awareness of expressing news. Like the guy with the persistence. He just put an application to get his license to be in the press room, which I think would be phenomenal to see him there.
Yeah. I get it. And, we're dealing with epic disasters when we look at this. And that's why the awareness right now, beyond of what Trump is offering to like guys like me and you, or anybody who wants to be a podcast journalist or an analyst or a journalist analyst or a photojournalist, someone who sees it's on the ground that they can keep observing that will help them in this battle of where the problems are and how maybe he can use his power, executive powers to, come into play. Because we're going to be them smaller parts of the fabric. And we are needed all over the United States of America. As you just said, Trump is using and utilizing everything in the best way of motion that he can and has. But 300 executive commands of order have went out, and this is a lot. So he is busy, and nobody's going to tell me he's sitting in a barking lounger with a cigar and a bourbon in his hand saying, I'm president. No, this is the guy who's sitting in chambers every day with people trying to figure out how they're going to do the best job. One of the best jobs he did most recently was his new press secretary. Brilliant, a firecracker. I mean, I really will say this, for meeting her today for the first time through a public address, I am excited because I know what I'm fighting, what I'm trying to warn people about of this network and how we need to kill it. So we do. And I don't want to use that word loosely because I'm not directing it towards people. I'm talking about killing the problems that are existing or the potential hazards of problems that they are still, because they are cells in place, working, trying to re-network what they lost and how to regain it, to hold on to it, to keep it in structure. Even when it came to the drones, we did get a little bit of an answer. Randy, I know you've got something that you're going to want to play, but I want to go through a couple more statements here.
That's fine.
And then we'll hit into that. So I want everybody to know. Please go on my page. Look at what I posted about what's going on in Pittsburgh, and I want you to be observant in your own city. If you think that you have some type of defiant people there, you probably do. Your gut instincts know it. You need to follow suit, as we're saying, because they're only going to use, as they used in California, when you look at it, diversity over quality, common sense and a work ethic. We don't have them. They don't have them. They're nowhere else left out behind. We have the disintelligent ones trying to rule the command of the leadership from a different standpoint. So it's not going to stop. We are in a position where this is not over by a long shot, and we're going to have to deal with things, and things of many are going to pop up. So with that said, if you missed anything, you came in late, I'm just going to give a quick hello out there. Craig Peterson, what's up, brother? I mean, there's a guy that's always rock starring. Geo Mega Man, how are you, man? Jack, Jeannie Buckley, David Navarre. If you guys can share this, we greatly appreciate it. Look, I mean, this is a public awareness. This is what we're doing here tonight. But also with that, we want to do a little rundown and a re-listen, if you may want to call it, of what the lady press secretary had to say today. And at the end of this, I can go back and go over a couple more things that I probably didn't touch base on as to how big this problem really will be in Pittsburgh if they can activate this. And we don't want to have that. So this is Carolyn Levitt. I believe that's her name. And
Yes.
I want to thank you guys for stepping in and watching too. As I said, please like and share. One thing I want to point out to everybody, I do this for you. I do this for myself. I do this for the freedom of our country. I do this because I love children of all walks and colors. I love citizens of America because I feel safest with them. And we got a lot ahead of us. And we're going to have a great breakdown in the next 45 minutes that will cover a lot of that. It will. And because why we need this is because of the abuses of power that were there, and have been removed, but still exist within our country. And I think everybody needs to know, if you haven't heard today what went down, you need to hear it now.
Ms. Sharon, okay, accept it.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. How are we?
Check.
Good to see all of you. It's an honor to be here with all of you. A lot of familiar faces in the room, a lot of new faces. And President Trump is back, and the golden age of America has most definitely begun. The Senate has already confirmed 5 of President Trump's exceptional cabinet nominees: Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. It is imperative that the Senate continues to confirm the remainder of the president's well-qualified nominees as quickly as possible. As you have seen during the past week, President Trump is hard at work fulfilling the promises that he made to the American people on the campaign trail. Since taking the oath of office, President Trump has taken more than 300 executive actions, secured nearly $1 trillion in U.S. investments, deported illegal alien rapists, gang members, and suspected terrorists from our homeland, and restored common sense to the federal government. I want to take a moment to go through some of these extraordinary actions. On day 1, President Trump declared a national emergency at our southern border to end the 4-year-long invasion of illegal aliens under the previous administration. Additionally, President Trump signed an executive order to end catch and release and finish construction of his effective border wall. By using every lever of his federal power, President Trump has sent a loud and clear message to the entire world. America will no longer tolerate illegal immigration, and this president expects that every nation on this planet will cooperate with the repatriation of their citizens. As proven by this weekend, when President Trump swiftly directed his team to issue harsh and effective sanctions and tariffs on the Colombian government, upon hearing they were denied a U.S. military aircraft full of their own citizens who were deported by this administration. Within hours, the Colombian government agreed to all of President Trump's demands, proving America is once again respected on the world stage. So, to foreign nationals who are thinking about trying to illegally enter the United States, think again. Under this president, you will be detained and you will be deported. Every day, Americans are safer because of the violent criminals that President Trump's administration is removing from our communities. On January 23rd, ICE New York arrested a Turkish national for entry without inspection who is a known or suspected terrorist. On January 23rd, ICE San Francisco arrested a citizen of Mexico unlawfully present in the United States who has been convicted of continuous sexual abuse of a child aged 14 years or younger. ICE St. Paul has arrested a citizen of Honduras who was convicted of fourth-degree criminal sexual conduct with a minor. ICE Buffalo arrested a citizen of Ecuador who has been convicted of rape. ICE Boston arrested a citizen of the Dominican Republic who has a criminal conviction for second-degree murder. This criminal was convicted of murder for beating his pregnant wife to death in front of her 5-year-old son. And ICE St. Paul also arrested a citizen of Mexico who was convicted of possessing pornographic material of a minor on a work computer. These are the heinous individuals that this administration is removing from American communities every single day, and to the brave state and local law enforcement officers, CBP, and ICE agents who are helping in the facilitation of this deportation operation, President Trump has your back, and he is grateful for your hard work. On the economic front, President Trump took immediate action to lower costs for families who are suffering from 4 long years of the Biden administration's destructive and inflationary policies. President Trump ordered the heads of all executive departments and agencies to help deliver emergency price relief to the American people, untangle our economy from Biden's regulatory constraints, and end the reckless war on American energy. President Trump also signed sweeping executive orders to end the weaponization of government and restore common sense to the federal bureaucracy. He directed all federal agencies to terminate illegal diversity, equity, and inclusion programs to help return America to a merit-based society. President Trump also signed an executive order declaring it is now the policy of the federal government that there are only 2 sexes, male and female. Sanity has been restored. Before I take your questions, I would like to point out to all of you once again have access to the most transparent and accessible president in American history. There has never been a president who communicates with the American people and the American press corps as openly and authentically as the 45th and now 47th president of the United States. This past week, President Trump has held multiple news conferences, gaggled on Air Force One multiple times, and sat down for a 2-part interview on Fox News, which aired last week. As Politico summed it up best, Trump is everywhere again. And that's because President Trump has a great story to tell about the legendary American revival that is well underway. And in keeping with this revolutionary media approach that President Trump deployed during the campaign, the Trump White House will speak to all media outlets and personalities, not just the legacy media who are seated in this room. Because according to recent polling from Gallup, Americans' trust in mass media has fallen to a record low. Millions of Americans, especially young people, have turned from traditional television outlets and newspapers to consume their news from podcasts, blogs, social media, and other independent outlets. It's essential to our team that we share President Trump's message everywhere and adapt this White House to the new media landscape in 2025. To do this, I'm excited to announce the following changes will be made to this historic James S. Brady briefing room, where Mr. Brady's legacy will endure. This White House believes strongly in the First Amendment, so it's why our team will work diligently to restore the press passes of the 440 journalists whose passes were wrongly revoked by the previous administration. We're also opening up this briefing room to new media voices who produce news-related content and whose outlet is not already represented by one of the seats in this room. We welcome independent journalists, podcasters, social media influencers, and content creators to apply for credentials to cover this White House. And you can apply now on our new website, whitehouse.gov/new media.
There you
Starting
go.
today, this seat in the front of the room, which is usually occupied by the press secretary's staff, will be called the new media seat. My team will review the applications and give credentials to new media applicants who meet our criteria and pass United States Secret Service requirements to enter the White House complex. So in light of these announcements, our first questions for today's briefing will go to these new media members whose outlets, despite being some of the most viewed news websites in the country, have not been given seats in this room. And before I turn to questions, I do have news directly from the President of the United States that was just shared with me in the Oval Office from President Trump directly, an update on the New Jersey drones. After research and study, the drones that were flying over New Jersey in large numbers were authorized to be flown by the FAA for research and various other reasons. Many of these drones were also hobbyists, recreational, and private individuals that enjoy flying drones. In time, it got worse due to curiosity. This was not the enemy. A statement from the President of the United States to start this briefing with some news. And with that, I will turn it over to questions. And we will begin with our new media members, Mike Allen from Axios and Matt Boyle from Breitbart. Mike, why don't you go ahead?
Thank you very much. Can we take a break right now, Randy?
Anything fish.
Thank you. Thank you. You can leave us right where we are and leave her in that place. That's great, because what a beautiful, brilliant young lady. She's covered a lot of things here. One of the important things is giving a voice back to the people in our media, where we're coming from, the ones who exposed the last 5, 6, 8 years and more that have been in this fight. I do have a concern that I want to share as we go into this, and it covers when they talk about Social Security. But I want everybody to know before we go into this where I stand on it and what I didn't see addressed and what I'm hoping that they will accept from me in letter form. And that is part of, look, the seniors in this country right now, more than ever, with all this money being recovered, need to be looked upon and given help through maybe a possible another stimulus, because we have come within 4 years of inflation to where we just can't get by and cannot manage anymore, as well as, the Social Security office and removing the offsettings that were put in place and the restrictions. And as they talk about the food stamps, take the balance pro quo of bullshit out of the system that says if you have over $2,000 in your bank account, you don't qualify for food stamps. But yet they want us to be healthy. They want us to grow. And I want to point that out to the administration in my letter. And I'm going to get that. I'm going to do that and put really good effort into the writing of it behind it, because, this scenario needs to be addressed. That when you're in a country that has come and has suffered so many deficiencies within the economy, you cannot make somebody spend their last $0 and have nothing else left to fall back on in life before you can get government help or assistance. Some of these things need to be changed. And I just wanted to bring that into my frame of mind as we go into this, of things of I have concern of how to help seniors and people on disability, that they change these restrictions so we benefit of true and factual full benefits the way things once were. And we get rid of these walls that take us out of the position of being eligible for anything. There's always a gray area that gets them out of some type of loop to where we get nothing for it. And that saddens me. So that's going to be part of my focus. How are you on this so far, Rand?
I'm no good. You're talking about the concern about the money for Social Security recipients and so forth.
Yeah.
I saw earlier on X, I was just trying to find it here, where this guy was itemized 10 things that Trump and his people found to cut out of the fat of what the Democrats were spending money on. And two of the things that hit my memory, and I apologize for my memory cells, but two of them was over $1 million a year. Not just once and done, but around $1 million every year they were spending on teaching clowns how to make animal balloons. Another
about,
one.
I got one. You said balloons, so this came to mind. Excuse me, just for one quick second. I think there was something of an astronomical number for condoms of $50 million for another world country. It's a ridiculous thing, and it may even come up through this. I don't know, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
And another one where they spent again around $1 million to do research on the depth of rainwater. And there's like 8 others. I'm trying to find them here, but
Medicare should be one.
stupid. No. This is a stupid ass things.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
not the what would be common sense. These are stupid ass things. The guy found 10 of them that Trump mentioned about. I'm gonna try and while we're watching this, I want to try and find it here. But again, these are annual payments being made,
Right.
and it's like, what the hell? You're spending $1 million to teach clowns how to make balloon animals? What the hell? They do a YouTube video, watch it.
Well,
It's
that
just
was
nuts.
Yeah, and that was probably part of what we were watching when they were having these mobile trucks show up, entertaining children through the influence of colored balloons and transgenderisms. So that's probably what that it falls somewhere in the synchronicity of the explanation. So yeah, however you want to proceed with this, but the thing on the Medicare was the money missing, the money missing. And how many other things haven't they not yet found? And it seems that there are secret wallets. And Trump's just doing that. DOS, whatever you call it, is put in place to find this and to recover the money. And maybe, he will be able to actually offer the citizens of America something back some way, because less taxes in 2-3 years is not going to help us tomorrow paying our bills, especially when you have senior citizens. Not like me personally, I pay over $8,000 a year in insurance, which a lot of my benefits of the insurance have been disqualified or removed. Don't let an outside source blow up your house, because there's no longer terroristic insurance. They removed it. And just as they did like with the fires in California. And, like Donald Trump was saying, with that saying, it's really odd that this has happened, and we're going to have to look into it. I think that was his way of saying somebody's bridges are going to burn. I'm talking about bridges, the ones that you're wearing, these people, these other ones that are all involved, knowing what they need to know and why they know it prior to it, and how they keep themselves safe. And we become more weak through their efforts. And that's why, again, why I was saying at the beginning of this, if we allow these types of things to take over our cities and the structures of our country, we do have to be that voice that Trump needs to get the information back to the White House.
Yeah. It goes back to, if you see something, tell someone. Something that I'm not sure if you saw it, but since you're in the business of rentals, or at least you were, did you ever seen that? What the hell? I just saw a video of a F-35 fighter jet crashing at Allison Air Force Base in Alaska. Wow, damn. There goes a few $1 million.
Yeah.
But do you see the video? There's a video out of this illegal who was teaching other illegals how to find people's homes who are on like vacation mode and go in there and take over the people's homes. And the video showed him with a fistful of money. Well, guess who just got arrested today? ICE picked him up.
Yeah. And they've been doing a really great job. I even seen Dr. Phil out there.
Yeah.
I've watched some of the videos that are coming through military intel resources, and I think they're being allowed to actually share and show this stuff. That Donald Trump wants people to know that as a president, you are now about to see for the first time, because of his new direction, transparency, 100%. Hey, Chuck Cook's on. I just want to say hi to Chuck because he's on a lot of other shows. Always gives support. Same with Dave Navarro. Hello, Michael and Randy. He says good evening to all. Let's post you up onto the chat board face for that. Then we have a comment on here. Thanks. All the comments you guys can put in will help us remember some of the lost content that we can't come up with always through a public broadcast, but we will. We will address anything that goes up. So Chuck did have that comment. I'm not sure. I guess he was rebuttaling to something that we were talking about, or one of us made mention. Pam says that there was a $50 million, together. All right, so there it was, $50 million funding for condoms to Gaza. These, and you know what? Wherever this bad money goes to, it usually supports somebody that's involved within their families of this old democracy of ways of thought and transition of how they wanted America to go forth and how to keep us down while we're on an immediate rebound. Like I said, 100 hours compared to 100 days, Trump is already ahead in his work and his ethic of work. I don't know if you want to invite Chuck on. I can't do it, Randy. I don't know if you have a way to do it, because Chuck's a good guy. If he wants to come in and say hello and hang out with us, Chuck, we're going to send you a link, because it's always good to have a friendly face on with us too. Please like and share, everybody. We really appreciate it. And I want you to know I did file for the papers to the White House, to the Department of Government, and I want you to know maybe Studio 10 Broadcasting will be able to come back. That's something that I've been hoping for that may have happened. It seems like that possibility is re-existing. Randy, go ahead. I apologize.
Yep. So I'm going to hit play here again.
All right, great. That's fine.
Either its origins or its cost, and could China's ability to make these models quicker, cheaper, affect our thinking about expanding generation data centers manufacturing?
Sure. The president was asked about DeepSeek last night on Air Force One when he gaggled for, I think, the third or fourth time throughout the weekend with members of the traveling press corps. The president said that he believes that this is a wake-up call to the American AI industry. The last administration sat on their hands and allowed China to rapidly develop this AI program. And so President Trump believes in restoring American AI dominance. And that's why he took very strong executive action this past week to sign executive orders to roll back some of the onerous regulations on the AI industry. And President Trump has also proudly appointed the first AI and crypto czar at this White House, David Sachs, whom I spoke with yesterday, very knowledgeable on this subject. And his team is here working every single day to ensure American AI dominance. As for the national security implications, I spoke with NSC this morning. They are looking into what those may be. And when I have an update, I will share it with you, Mike.
Carolyn, you say restore U.S. dominance. Is there a fear that the U.S. either is falling or has fallen behind? And how would the president make sure the U.S. stays ahead?
No, the president is confident that we will restore American dominance in AI.
Yeah, so Caroline, first off, thank you to you and President Trump for actually giving voices to new media outlets that represent millions and millions of Americans. The thing I would add, I've got a two-part question. Just can you expand upon what steps the White House is going to take to bring more voices, not less, which is what our founder, Andrew Breitbart, believed in, into this room where they rightfully belong?
Yeah. Absolutely. And as I said in my opening statement, Matt, it is a priority of this White House to honor the First Amendment. And it is a fact that Americans are consuming their news media from various different platforms, especially young people. And as the youngest press secretary in history, thanks to President Trump, I take great pride in opening up this room to new media voices to share the president's message with as many Americans as possible. In doing so, number one, we will ensure that outlets like yours, Axios and Breitbart, which are widely respected and viewed outlets, have an actual seat in this room every day. We also, again, encourage anybody in this country, whether you are a TikTok content creator, a blogger, a podcaster, if you are producing legitimate news content, no matter the medium, you will be allowed to apply for press credentials to this White House. And as I said earlier, our new media website is whitehouse.gov/new media. And so we encourage people to apply. Again, as long as you are creating news-related content of the day and you're a legitimate independent journalist, you're welcome to cover this White House.
And secondly, Caroline, you said you laid out several of the actions that President Trump has taken. Obviously, it's a stark contrast to the previous administration of breakneck speed from President Trump. Can we expect that pace to continue as the first 100 days moves along here and beyond that.
Absolutely. There's no doubt President Trump has always been the hardest working man in politics. I think that's been proven over the past week. This president has again signed more than 300 executive orders. He's taken historic action. I gaggled aboard Air Force One to mark the first 100 days of this administration, 4 p.m. last Friday, or first 100 hours rather. And this president did more in the first 100 hours than the previous president did in the first 100 days. So President Trump, I think you can all expect for him to continue to work at this breakneck speed. So I hope you're all ready to work very hard. I know that we are. Zeke Miller.
Thanks, Caroline. A question that we've asked your predecessors of both parties in this job. When you're up here in this briefing room speaking to the American public, do you view yourself and your role as advocating on behalf of the president or providing the unvarnished truth that is, not to lie, not to obfuscate to the American people?
I commit to telling the truth from this podium every single day. I commit to speaking on behalf of the President of the United States. That is my job. And I will say it's very easy to speak truth from this podium when you have a president who is implementing policies that are wildly popular with the American people. And that's exactly what this administration is doing. It's correcting the lies and the wrongs of the past 4 years, many of the lies that have been told to your faces in this very briefing room. I will not do that. But since you brought up truth, Zeke, I would like to point out, while I vow to provide the truth from this podium, we ask that all of you in this room hold yourselves to that same standard. We know for a fact there have been lies that have been pushed by many legacy media outlets in this country about this president, about his family, and we will not accept that. We will call you out when we feel that your reporting is wrong or there is misinformation about this White House. So yes, I will hold myself to the truth, and I expect everyone in this room to do the same.
And Caroline, just on a substantive question, yesterday, the White House Office of Management and Budget directed across the board freeze with some exceptions for individual assistance, we understand, to federal grants. It's caused a lot of confusion around the country among Head Start providers, among providers services to homeless veterans, Medicaid providers, states saying they're having trouble accessing the portal. Could you help us clear up some confusion,
Yes.
give some certainty to folks? And also, how does that uncertainty service the president's voters?
Well, I think there's only uncertainty in this room amongst the media. There's no uncertainty in this building. So let me provide the certainty and the clarity that all of you need. This is not a blanket pause on federal assistance and grant programs from the Trump administration. Individual assistance, that includes, I'm not naming everything that's included, but just to give you a few examples, Social Security benefits, Medicare benefits, food stamps, welfare benefits, assistance that is going directly to individuals will not be impacted by this pause. And I want to make that very clear to any Americans who are watching at home who may be a little bit confused about some of the media reporting. This administration, if you are receiving individual assistance from the federal government, you will still continue to receive that. However, it is the responsibility of this president and this administration to be good.
I just want to pause there for a second, because this is one of the things that has been very concerning to my daughter, especially because she's on food stamps. Of course, she's a Democrat, and she's getting her information from other news feeds. And she is saying that Trump is indeed pausing the money for the food stamp program. And I told my daughter specifically that what she's saying right here is that those services going to individual people are not being affected. It's the stuff going to like large groups, like group houses, shelters, things like that.
Right. And I agree. And I think that you need to tell her to just be patient and try to be a little bit more understanding, because what is really going on is they're trying to see how it's working, who it's working for, and how do we make the corrections to save money for the American people and redirect it to the American people. That's the main focus here. Now, being when it's on pause, new people filing may have to wait. It's not going to be a considerable amount of time because there is a huge amount of people working into this. There are phone calls beyond what people would comprehend to get to the bottom of everything to make sure that they make the appropriate decisions and that everybody given that information is also held accountable towards the information being given and represented to the President of the United States. This is not to harm anybody, and it won't be a long process. I would just say have a little bit more compassion. It's not as bad as you think, and it will be better. It will be better because there'll be more left for you, the one that may be questioning it. With that, let's just say hello to Chuck. Chuck, don't want you to think that we're not. I see you, brother. I see you, man. Thank you for coming in. Just having you here makes my day a little bit better. Randy, go ahead.
I was just saying that he also announced that there's going to be close to 1 million workers given a choice to either be fired or be released early, and that they will have be given 8 months worth of medical benefits and things like that. But that there's going to be close to 1 million workers walking out the door. So that's going to save a shitload of money.
Yeah, and then you still have to consider what's really happening with the 88,000 IRS employee agents. So do we redirect them, knowing that, look, this could be catastrophic again on, people with families who are citizens. But again, remember, we weren't trying to create this circumstance to happen. And the true numbers that the Biden administration represented were always false items of numbers when it said so many new jobs went out this month, next month, last month, the past 2 months, the past months forward were all lies. They were not the truths. So there is going to be transparency there also. And look, that's all Trump is trying to do. Focus on the true facts at hand. Chuck, do you want to make any comment?
No, I'm just like I said, thank you for inviting me. I wasn't expecting to go live tonight, but hey, I did real good out at the casino last night. It's going to be enough to pay for our vacation. Yeah, go to my Facebook page. You'll see the post I put up there. But anyways, I was kind of waiting for Dave Lovin to invite me, but I guess there was no show on his the boogie tonight. So I was just sitting here, and then you sent me an attachment there, and I started watching you and Randy, and that's where we're at right now. So this spokesperson they have is damn good, really good,
isn't she? She's brilliant. Like I said at the beginning of the show, this is a firecracker just waiting to explode. And I mean, we haven't had many. We had Kaylee, but we have now a person acting as a governor. My God, I'm embarrassed to say this. I see her face. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. But out of the
Sarah Huckabee.
Yes, there you go, Sarah. Fighting for America on a new but a different level, with a power and resources and common sense to guide her state forward. This is what it's all been about, this trifecta of how we have voted for everything that is now here in place. One of the things, going back to Pennsylvania for just a minute, and I'm circling the whole state, is when you turn a state red, which we did, how did the blue win every leadership position? That's all I'm saying. I'm not going to say any more about it, but keep that coming. Dave Glovin just said 87,000 IRS agents should go to ICE. That was mentioned actually in a way, I think, by Trump, and I don't disagree with that. Maybe that would actually help the enormity of the venue of what we're actually in conflict with to help clean up the United States. So good comment, Dave. I appreciate that, and see if you can share us out throughout some of the hidden groups. No, I had a late cancellation. I don't know what that means, but it's all good. It doesn't matter. I know you've been having technical difficulties and so forth, and sometimes life draws us away. Don't ever feel bad about it. There's always tomorrow. You can come back within, and everybody will hear. If anybody wants to invite Jerry on the latter part, that'd be great too. I don't really care because everybody's probably bored tonight. But with that, Randy, go ahead.
One thing I wanted to mention, you're talking about the IRS guys that they hired. During the training process of the gun, one of the agents shot another one of the agents in the training of the handguns. Just saying.
good stewards of taxpayer dollars. That is something that President Trump campaigned on. That's why he has launched DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, who is working alongside OMB. And that's why OMB sent out this memo last night, because the president signed an executive order directing OMB to do just this. And the reason for this is to ensure that every penny that is going out the door is not conflicting with the executive orders and actions that this president has taken. So what does this pause mean? It means no more funding for illegal DEI programs. It means no more funding for the Green New scam that has cost American taxpayers tens of billions of dollars. It means no more funding for transgenderism and wokeness across our federal bureaucracy and agencies. No more funding for Green New Deal social engineering policies. Again, people who are receiving individual assistance, you will continue to receive that. And President Trump is looking out for you by issuing this pause because he is being good steward of your taxpayer dollars.
Thanks, Caroline.
Sure.
How long is this pause going to last, and how is the Trump administration recommending that organizations that rely on federal funding make payroll, pay their rent in the meantime?
It is a temporary pause, and the Office of Management and Budget is reviewing the federal funding that has been going out the door. Again, not for individual assistance, but for all of these other programs that I mentioned. I also spoke with the incoming director of OMB this morning, and he told me to tell all of you that the line to his office is open for other federal government agencies across the board. And if they feel that programs are necessary and in line with the president's agenda, then the Office of Management and Budget will review those policies. I think this is a very responsible measure. Again, the past 4 years, we've seen the Biden administration spend money like drunken sailors. It's a big reason we've had an inflation crisis in this country. And it's incumbent upon this administration to make sure, again, that every penny is being accounted for honestly.
Why impose this pause with so little notice? Why not give organizations more time to plan for the fact that they are about to lose, in some cases, really crucial federal funding, at least for a period of time?
There was notice. It was the executive order that the president signed. There's also a freeze on hiring, as you know, a regulatory freeze, and there's also a freeze on foreign aid. And this is, again, incredibly important to ensure that this administration is taking into consideration how hard the American people are working. And their tax dollars actually matter to this administration. You know, just during this pause, DOGE and OMB have actually found that there was $37 million that was about to go out the door to the World Health Organization, which is an organization, as you all know, that President Trump, with the swipe of his pen in that executive order, is no longer wants the United States to be a part of. So that wouldn't be in line with the president's agenda. DOGE and OMB also found that there was about to be 50 million taxpayer dollars that went out the door to fund condoms in Gaza. That is a preposterous waste of taxpayer money. So that's what this pause is focused on, being good stewards of tax dollars.
And so this doesn't affect Meals on Wheels or Head Start or disaster aid?
Again, it does not affect individual assistance that's going to Americans.
To follow up on Nancy, do you think there will be a list of who is affected and how much money is affected? How will these contractors and organizations know if they are actually having their funding frozen? And then secondly, if you're willing, can you just clarify, is the end goal of this to essentially challenge Congress or to prove that the president can withhold federal funding? In other words, is this an attempt to pick a fight to prove that he can do this?
No, absolutely not. As it says right here in the memo, which I have, and I'd encourage all of you to read it, it says the American people elected President Trump to be the president of the United States and gave him a mandate to increase the impact of every federal dollar. This memo requires federal agencies to identify and review all federal financial assistance programs and supporting activities consistent with the president's policies and requirements. The American people gave President Trump an overwhelming mandate on November 5th, and he's just trying to ensure that the tax money going out the door in this very bankrupt city actually aligns with the will and the priorities of the American people.
Will there be a landline?
Yes. Welcome. You look great. You're doing a great job. You talked about transparency, and some of us in this room know how just transparent President Trump has been the last 5 or 6 years. I think you'll do the same. My question is, do you think this latest incident with the president of Colombia is indicative of the global, powerful respect they have for President Trump moving forward, not only to engage in economic diplomacy with these countries, but also world peace?
Absolutely. I'll echo the answer that the president gave on Air Force One last night when he was asked a very similar question by one of your colleagues in the media. This signifies peace through strength is back. And this president will not tolerate illegal immigration into America's interior. And he expects every nation on this planet, again, to cooperate with the repatriation of their citizens who illegally entered into our country and broke America's laws. Won't be tolerated. And as you saw, the Colombian government quickly folded and agreed to all of President Trump's demands. Flights are underway once again.
Carolyn. Two questions on deportations, if I may. President Trump had said on the campaign trail that he would deport pro-Hamas students who are here on visas. And on his first day in office, he signed an executive order that said, quote, the U.S. must ensure that admitted aliens and aliens otherwise already present in the U.S. do not bear hostile attitudes towards the citizens, culture, government, institutions, or founding principles. So should we take this executive order as Trump saying he would be open to deporting those students who are here on visas, but hold pro-Hamas sympathies?
The president is open to deporting individuals who have broken our nation's immigration laws. So if they are here illegally, then certainly he is open to deporting them. And that's what this administration is hard at work at doing. We receive data from DHS and from ICE every single day. From what we hear on the ground, ICE agents are feeling incredibly empowered right now because they actually have a leader in this building who is supporting them in doing their jobs that they were hired to do, which is to detain, arrest, and deport illegal criminals who have invaded our nation's borders over the past 4 years. That's what the president is committed to seeing. Peter.
Very quickly, just following up on the question on immigration first. President Trump, during the course of the campaign in 2024, said the following about illegal immigration. He said, they're going back home where they belong, and we start with the criminals. There are many, many criminals. NBC News has learned that ICE arrested 1,179 undocumented immigrants on Sunday, but nearly half of them, 566 of the migrants, appear to have no prior criminal record besides entering the country illegally. Is the president still focused exclusively, which is a civil crime, it's not criminal?
It's a federal crime.
So I'm asking though, he said he was going to focus on those violent offenders first. So is violent offenders no longer the predicate for these people to be deported?
The president has said countless times on the campaign trail, I've been with him at the rallies, I know you've been there covering them too, Peter, that he is focused on launching the largest mass deportation operation in American history of illegal criminals. And if you are an individual, a foreign national, who illegally enters the United States of America, you are, by definition, a criminal. And so therefore, you are subject to deportation.
I apologize for interrupting. So to be clear, it's not violent criminals do not receive precedence in terms of the deportations taking place.
The president has also said two things can be true at the same time. We want to deport illegal criminals, illegal immigrants from this country, but the president has said that, of course, the illegal criminal drug dealers, the rapists, the murderers, the individuals who have committed heinous acts on the interior of our country and who have terrorized law-abiding American citizens, absolutely, those should be the priority of ICE, but that doesn't mean that the other illegal criminals who entered our nation's borders are off the table.
Understood. Then let me ask you a separate question about the confusion that still exists across the country right now as it relates to the freeze or pause as it's described. President Trump, of course, ran one of the key policy items was that he was going to lower prices, lower the cost of everything from groceries, as he often said. But in many of the cases, it would seem that some of these moves could raise prices for real Americans on everything from low-income heating, that program, childcare programs. Will nothing that the president's doing here in terms of the freeze in these programs raise prices on ordinary Americans?
What particular actions are you referring to that would?
Referring to LHEAP right now, that's the low-income heating program, for example. We can talk about, there's no clarity, so I could refer to a lot of them. We don't know what they are specifically. Can you tell us that LHEAP is not one of those affected?
So you're asking a hypothetical based on programs that you can't even identify. What I can tell you
just to be clear, since you guys haven't identified, let's do it together just for Americans at home. Medicaid, is that affected?
I gave you a list of examples: Social Security, Medicare, welfare benefits, food stamps that will not be impacted by this federal pause. I can get you the full list after this briefing from the Office of Management and Budget. But I do want to address the cost cutting. because that's certainly very important, and cutting the cost of living in this country. President Trump has taken historic action over the past week to do that. He actually signed a memorandum to deliver emergency price relief for American families, which took a number of actions. I can walk you through those. He also repealed many onerous Biden administration regulations. We know over the past 4 years, American households has been essentially taxed $55,000 in regulations from the previous administration. President Trump, with the swipe of his pen, rescinded those, which will ultimately put more money back in the pockets of the American people. So deregulation is a big deal. And then when it comes to energy, I mean, the president signed an executive order to declare a national energy emergency here at home, which is going to make America energy dominant. We know that energy is one of the #1 drivers of inflation. And so that's why the president wants to increase our energy supply to bring down costs for Americans. The Trump energy boom is incoming, and Americans can expect that.
Thank you.
Caroline, I
You
think
want to take a pause?
maybe here with this pause on federal funding, you've made it clear you're not stopping funds.
There's so much going on here, and I don't mean to stop it or interject, but I mean it's uncanny how many times they have to ask the same question over and over, and she's answered it and points that part out. However, there's a lot of things that I do understand lie in that gray area, and a list will probably have to come forth. But I think what they're looking for and why they're doing it again, my analogy of that would be to stop any further cushioning, to give only what is necessarily needed, to make sure that those funds are used properly. And if you need to ask for more, take and do and file the proper procedures to have more. Go ahead, Randy.
You'll take notice if you haven't already.
Hello.
Check her eyes and her head expression. She's starting to get. That's a Chucky's phone. She's starting to get frustrated with the news reporters asking the same stupid question over and over again.
Right. I mean, where's the sense of common sense if you're a journalist? How did you not get it? I mean, I got it the first time. And again, I do realize there are, and we are now touching on a couple other fabrics of topic, but nobody's looking to shut down anything totally in any way, just to take a breath to look at it, to start, trying to help in different ways within the structure of pulling back money to make America better across the whole line of the levels. That may, in fact, when Donald may come on at some time, Mr. President, I'm sorry, Trump may come on at one day and say, look, I know you guys are hurting. I'm going to send you all something. Okay. We don't know. So let's not abate this thing, because but they will, they will, try to utilize that into the subject topic. And of course, it's probably not the ones that are coming back in. It's the old veteran journalist, like the one that Trump had to face that time, where a journalist wouldn't give a microphone back to a young lady, and he disrespected President Trump from one end of the board to the other. And Trump told them, you're an embarrassment to CNN. I'm not giving names because with my luck, I would get sued. And I think she's trying to watch what she says, but she gets a little more frustrated as this goes on, but she never loses her composure and she stays direct. Hey, Rand, you care to comment? Please do.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. She does maintain her composure, but again, you can see in her mouth, the tightness of her mouth. We're like, oh my God, really? So she's getting frustrated. And that's why she's saying, about going back and reading the list. I think what the reporters are trying to do is, this is her first day out. She's new to the rodeo, and they're trying to fluster her.
Oh, they're trying to burn her to the stake, and she ain't having nothing to do with it, man. She is spot on. What a difference between this press secretary and the one they had before,
The Cabbage Patcher. Yeah.
And it take notice, no binder. She's doing all from off the top of her head right now.
Right. Unbelievable.
Totally different from Peppermint Patty too. If you really go back and start to reflect on people, come on, there was only like Sarah, Kaylee, but where were these? They were the Trump people. Everyone else was the ones hiding behind the lies to develop more lies to tell another lie. And now they're hearing it for the truth. And not only she's correcting people on law, she's correcting people on how she's describing what she's describing. And she has the wrath of God around her neck, the sign of the cross. She's not there to pull punches. She is there for the American people. And again, she's a firecracker. I applaud her, and whatever you guys want to do, keep it going. It sounds great. And I think anybody that's missed this is seeing it now in real time. Thank you for being able to provide that also to us, Randy. I appreciate it. And I told you we wouldn't have no problem because I do have good studio equipment. We just needed to have it.
Well, it's not that, but what I've been doing is I have the echo cancellation on. Plus, I'm muting both my microphone and mute on the StreamYard setup. So that's probably also helping too with the echo background we had before. But here we go.
That go directly to individuals, but there certainly are lots of organizations that receive funding and then may pass along a benefit. Meals on Wheels, for one. They provide meals for over 2.2 million students. What is the president's message to Americans out there, many of whom supported him and voted for him, who are concerned that this is going to impact them directly, even if, as you said, the funding isn't coming directly to their wallet?
I have now been asked and answered this question 4 times. To individuals at home who receive direct assistance from the federal government, you will not be impacted by this federal freeze. In fact, OMB just sent out a memo to Capitol Hill with Q&A to clarify some of the questions and the answers that all of you are asking me right now. Again, direct assistance will not be impacted. I've been asked and answered about this OMB memo. There's many other topics of the day. Jackie Heinrich.
Direct assistance, Caroline, if it's going to another organization and then trickling down.
Direct assistance that is in the hands of the American people will not be impacted. Again, as I said to Peter, we will continue to provide that list as it comes to fruition. But OMB right now is focused on analyzing the federal government's spending, which is exactly what the American people elected President Trump to do.
And one question on immigration, Caroline, on immigration. Of the 3,500 arrests ICE has made so far since President Trump came back into office, can you just tell us the numbers? How many have a criminal record versus those who are just in the country illegally?
All of them, because they illegally broke our nation's laws and therefore they are criminals as far as this administration goes. I know the last administration didn't see it that way, so it's a big culture shift in our nation to view someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal, but that's exactly what they are.
You may have going with the worst first. They all have a criminal record.
And welcome to the
Hello, Jerry.
Our nation's laws, yes, they are criminal. Yes.
Thank you. On stripping security details for figures like John Bolton, Pompeo, Brian Hook, Senator Tom Cotton said that he's seen the intelligence and the threat from Iran is real for anyone who played a role in Soleimani's strike. He voiced concern it wouldn't just impact those individuals, but potentially their family, innocent bystanders, friends, anyone who's near them when they're out in public. Is the president open to reconsidering his decision?
The president was asked and answered this yesterday, and he was firm in his decision despite some of the comments that you had referenced. And he's made it very clear that he does not believe American taxpayers should fund security details for individuals who have served in the government for the rest of their lives. And there's nothing stopping these individuals that you mentioned from obtaining private security. That's where the president stands on it. I have no updates on that.
Is there any concern that this decision might jeopardize the administration's ability to hire the best advisors for these kinds of positions in the future?
No, in fact, I've talked to the presidential personnel office who has told me directly that there is such an influx of resumes for this administration that it's incredibly overwhelming. There is no lack of talent for the Trump administration. Reagan,
would he take any responsibility if anything happened to these people? Would he feel at all that his decision was a factor in that?
The president was asked and answered this yesterday. I defer you to his comments.
Caroline.
Reagan, since you're in the back row, I hear the back row hasn't gotten much attention in the last 4 years, so I'm happy to answer your question.
I can project. Does the president intend to permanently cut off funding to NGOs that are bringing illegal foreign nationals to the country, such as Catholic Charities?
I am actually quite certain that the president signed an executive order that did just that, and I can point you to that.
One more, Caroline. President Trump issued an executive order on increased vetting for refugees in visa applications. Part of that order was considering an outright ban for countries that have deficient screening processes. Has the president considered yet which countries might fall into this category? Are countries like Afghanistan or Syria under consideration for a full ban?
Yeah, so the president signed an executive order to streamline the vetting for visa applicants and for illegal immigrants in this country who are coming, of course, from other nations. It also directed the Secretary of State to review the process and make sure that other countries around the world are being completely transparent with our nation and the individuals that they are sending here. And so the Secretary of State has been directed to report back to the president. I haven't seen that report yet. We've only been here for a few days.
One on the freeze in federal funding. Who advised the president on the legality of telling government agencies that they don't have to spend money that was already appropriated by Congress?
Well, as the OMB memo states, this is certainly within the confines of the law. So White House counsel's office believes that this is within the president's power to do it, and therefore he's doing it.
Okay, so they disagree with lawmakers who say that they don't have the power to freeze this funding.
Again, I would point you to the language in the memo that clearly states this is within the law.
And all that happened on Friday night. The administration fired several inspectors general without giving Congress the 30-day legally required notification that they were being fired. I think only 2 were left at DHS and the DOJ. And then yesterday we saw several prosecutors, I believe 12, fired from the Justice Department who worked on the investigations into the president. As you know, they are career prosecutors, therefore they are afforded civil service protections. How is the administration deciding which laws to follow and which ones to ignore?
So it is the belief of this White House and the White House counsel's office that the president was within his executive authority to do that. He is the executive of the executive branch, and therefore he has the power to fire anyone within the executive branch that he wishes to. There's also a case that went before the Supreme Court in 2020, Scala Law LLC versus the Customs, Bureau Protection. I would advise you to look at that case, and that's the legality that this White House was resting on.
So you're confident that if they bring lawsuits against you, those prosecutors who were fired, that they will succeed?
We will win in court.
And
yes.
Did he personally direct this, given they worked on the classified documents investigation and the election interference investigation?
This was a memo that went out by the Presidential Personnel Office, and the president is the leader of this White House. So yes. Yes.
Caroline.
Caroline. Thank you. Congrats on your first day behind the podium.
Thank you.
President Trump ended funding for UNRWA and also designated the Houthis a foreign terrorist organization.
That's right.
Both were decisions that the previous administration had reversed. So here's my question. Will there be an investigation into who gave the previous administration this terrible advice?
Well, that's a very good point. I haven't heard discussions about such an investigation, but it wouldn't be a bad idea considering that the Houthis certainly are terrorists. They have launched attacks on U.S. naval ships across this world. And so I think it was a very wise move by this administration to redesignate them as a terrorist group because they are. And I think it was a foolish decision by the previous administration to do so. As for an investigation, I'm not sure about that, but it's not a bad idea. Josh.
Thank you for the question. I appreciate it. Can you give us an update on the president's plans for his tariff agenda? He spoke a lot about this yesterday, and there's a couple of dates coming up that he's spoken to. Number one, February 1st, he's alluded to both the potential for tariffs for Canada and Mexico, but also China to take effect on those days. What's he thinking about that?
Yeah.
Should those countries expect that?
Again, he was asked and answered this question this past weekend when he took a lot of questions from the press, and he said that the February 1st date for Canada and Mexico still holds.
The China 10% tariff that he also had mused about last Tuesday going into effect on the same day.
Yeah, the president has said that he is very much still considering that for February 1st.
Yesterday, he talked also about sectoral tariffs on, for instance, pharmaceuticals, as well as semiconductor computer chips. He talked about steel, aluminum, and copper. What's the timeline on those? Is that a similar sort of coming days thing?
Yeah, so when the president talked about that in his speech yesterday, that actually wasn't a new announcement. That was within a presidential memorandum that he signed in one of the first days here in the White House on his America First trade agenda. So there's more details on those tariffs in there. As far as a date, I don't have a specific date to read out to you, but the president is committed to implementing tariffs effectively, just like he did in his first term.
Finally, he also was asked on the plane when he gaggled about the potential for a universal tariff. He was asked maybe about 2.5%. There was a report about that. He said he wanted much bigger than that. Should we understand that these tariffs would add up? You know, in other words, you might have country-specific tariffs like Canada, Mexico, China. You might have sectoral tariffs like on pharmaceuticals, as well as a potential universal tariff on top of that? Do these stack on one or the other, or would one sort of take precedence over another?
All I can point you to is what the president has said on this front. The February 1st date for Canada and Mexico, also the China tariff that he has discussed. He rejected the 2.5% tariff. He said that was a little bit too low. He wants it to be higher. I'll leave it to him to make any decisions on that front. Phil Wegman.
What the Mexicans and Canadians have done so far, do you have any comment on whether that has met the bar, what he wants to see on fentanyl? Thank you.
I won't get ahead of the president again on advocating to foreign nations on what they should or shouldn't do to get away from these tariffs. The president has made it very clear, again, that he expects every nation around this world to cooperate with the repatriation of their citizens. And the president has also put out specific statements in terms of Canada and Mexico when it comes to what he expects in terms of border security. We have seen a historic level of cooperation from Mexico. But again, as far as I'm still tracking, and that was last night talking to the president directly, February 1st is still on the books. Phil.
Thank you, Caroline. Quick programming note and then a question on taxes. Well, in terms of programming, should we expect to see you here every day? How frequently will these press briefings be?
It is a good question, April. So look, the president, as you know, is incredibly accessible. First day here, he wanted all of you in the Oval Office. You got a 60-minute press conference with the leader of the free world while he was simultaneously signing executive orders. I may add that's pretty impressive. I don't think the previous office holder would be able to pull such a thing off. So look, the president is the best spokesperson that this White House has. And I can assure you that you will be hearing from both him and me as much as possible.
And then a question about tax cuts. The president has promised to extend the tax cuts from the previous term. I'm curious, does the president support corresponding spending cuts as some Republicans have called for in Congress? And will the new Treasury Secretary be leading those negotiations with the Hill as Mnuchin did during the first administration?
The president is committed to both tax cuts and spending cuts. And he has a great team negotiating on his behalf, but there's no better negotiator than Donald Trump. And I'm sure he'll be involved in this reconciliation process as it moves forward.
Caroline, in the announcement that you made last night on the Iron Dome, it said the president had directed that the United States will build this Iron Dome.
Yeah.
When you read into the executive order, it seemed short of that. It asked for a series of studies and reports back. Can you tell us whether the president has directed this? And if he is this concerned on this issue, why the suspensions that we saw listed by OMB included so many different nuclear programs, non-proliferation programs, programs to blend down nuclear weapons, and so forth?
First of all, when it comes to the Iron Dome, the executive order directed the implementation of an Iron Dome. It also, as you said, kind of directed research and studies to see if or how the United States can go about doing this, particularly the Department of Defense. When it comes to the other question that you asked about those specific programs, again, I would say this is not a ban. This is a temporary pause and a freeze to ensure that all of the money going out from Washington, D.C. is in line with the president's agenda. And as the Office of Management and Budget has updates on what will be kickstarted once again, I will provide those to you.
Hello, Jenny.
Awesome.
Again, they're still asking about the pause on the money. I like the way the guy tagged it in at the end when he's talking about the Iron Dome, which is an important question, which hasn't really been addressed yet. But then he throws in about the damn money being paused again. I think they're trying to catch her up and see if she changes her answers.
Right.
But talk about the Iron Dome. I think our nation is long past the time when we should have had ours already in place. Now, Israel, it's a smaller nation, so it has a smaller airspace to protect. I almost envision this Iron Dome for our own country, almost like a sci-fi movie where we have a force shield, which there's this one sci-fi movie where they had these half moon shaped energy generators throughout the country, and when it was necessary, they just flip a switch and they powered up and they created that dome effect. So I'm anxious to see ours get put in place. And they already have the missiles and so forth, but be interested to see what happens here.
Yeah, that part is of interest, and because a lot of people were thinking, "Oh my God, what are they talking about? What do they intend to do?" And it's not like we're going to cover or cloak, the entirety of the United States. And then remember, you have you have to exercise out of the lower 48 and also include 49 and 50, Hawaii and Alaska. And what I'm thinking we're looking at is part of Elon Musk's brother's team of drones. They're called for entertainment purposes only, but perhaps Elon's technologies can somehow create that dome effect of directional energy weaponry, aiming it off in all directions to cloak and protect in some way. So we're going to have these possibly have these types of components in the sky. That makes good sense when you think about it, when you bring everything into the perception of what maybe they're referring to. However, we're going to have to wait to really see what exactly this technology is. And when I used to say to everybody, look, we have no choice but to further in this technology. And that's because Biden made sure, the deep state made sure, the Bilderbergers, the Lucifer, whatever you want to call these people, have taken a guide and given it to other people, and they are surpassing us. And we need our technology to keep up. That's why technology is never going to go back to the past of a normality. It's going to have to go into a future of a normality to where we can keep up with them and surpass them. Chuck, go ahead. I saw your hand up.
Yeah, you made that comment there, and I just wanted I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you've always said, and I've heard you say it many a time, that we have technology that the common person just would never believe that we have.
Right.
What's to prevent us from not already having this Iron Dome that we don't know about?
Again, or waiting in the shadows, so to speak. We don't know what was going on the past 4 years exactly and who was talking to who. And to talk to another country, that could have an ill effect. Talking to another president of a different country, then there's influences, there's another dossier. But when you can talk to Elon Musk because he's from the United States of America, you can have general conversations of technology with somebody like that. And they can't. So I think in ways that that's going to connect the dots. But again, as to how, I don't know. And I think as we move forth and go further, and the entrapment of what they're trying to do here, it's just an embarrassment to journalists who call themselves journalists that would do that. No woman should have to stand there and repeat herself 5 or 6 times with the same answer. But again, Are they trying to create the heat under the gun on her? She's keeping herself together. That's what's important. She's strong. She's letting people know that Donald Trump's going to be a different kind of president. He's back. He's already making good on what he's saying for the American people. I love her to death. I really do. I think she's going to be a rock star, and they're going to have a hard time cracking the egg around that shell, the shell around that egg.
Yeah.
Just to clarify for a sec what you were saying before on Medicaid. It wasn't clear to me whether you were saying that no Medicaid would be cut off. Obviously, a lot of this goes to states before it goes to individuals and so forth. So are you guaranteeing here that no individual now on Medicaid would see a cutoff because of the policy?
I'll check back on that and get back to you. John.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. As you know, in the first week that the president was in office, signed an executive order as it relates to birthright citizenship, trying to eliminate that. Now, 22 state attorney generals have said that this is unconstitutional. A federal judge has just agreed with their argument. What's the administration's argument for doing away with birthright citizenship?
The folks that you mentioned have a right to have that legal opinion, but it is in disagreement with the legal opinion of this administration. This administration believes that birthright citizenship is unconstitutional, and that is why President Trump signed that executive order. Illegal immigrants who come to this country and have a child are not subject to the laws of this jurisdiction. That's the opinion of this administration. We have already appealed the lawsuit that was filed against this administration, and we are prepared to fight this all the way to the Supreme Court if we have to, because President Trump believes that this is a necessary step to secure our nation's borders and protect our homeland.
On foreign policy, Caroline, on foreign policy, if I may, the president's commitment to the NATO Defense Alliance, is it as strong as the prior administration? Is it the same as when he served as president in his first term in office?
As long as NATO pays their fair share, and President Trump has called on NATO allies to increase their defense spending to 5%. You actually saw the head of NATO at Davos last week on Bloomberg television saying that President Trump is right. And if Europe wants to keep itself safe, they should increase their defense spending. I would just add that there was no greater ally to our European allies than President Trump in his first term. The world for all nations in Europe, and of course here at home, was much safer because of President Trump's peace through strength diplomatic approach.
Thank you, Caroline. And it's great to finally be called on as well in the briefing room. I appreciate that. Of course, we know President Trump just got back from North Carolina and California meeting with victims of natural disasters. There's the 2-year anniversary of the East Palestine, Ohio toxic train derailment. Does the president have any plans to go visit the victims of that toxic spill, or just visit in general?
No plans that I can read out for you here. If that changes, I will certainly keep you posted. What I can tell you is that President Trump still talks about his visit to East Palestine, Ohio. That was one of the turning points, I would say, in the previous election campaign, where Americans were reminded that President Trump is a man of the people, and he, as a candidate, visited that town that was just derailed by the train derailment, no pun intended, and he offered support and hope, just like I saw the president do this past week. It was a purposeful decision by this president on his first domestic trip to go to North Carolina and to California to visit with Americans who were impacted by Hurricane Helene and also by the deadly fires. A red state and a blue state, both of which feel forgotten by the previous administration and the federal government. That is now ended under President Trump. He will continue to put Americans first, whether they're in East Palestine, in Pacific Palisades, or in North Carolina.
Thank you, Caroline. On California, could you please clarify what the military did with the water last night as referenced in the president's Truth Social post?
The water has been turned back on in California, and this comes just days after President Trump visited Pacific Palisades, and as you all saw, applied tremendous pressure on state and local officials in Pacific Palisades, including Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, to turn on the water and to direct that water to places in the south and in the middle of the state that have been incredibly dry, which has led to the rapid expansion of these fires.
So could you clarify what the military's role was, where the water came from, and how it got there?
Again, the Army Corps of Engineers has been on the ground in California to respond to the devastation from these wildfires. And I would point out that just days after President Trump visited the devastation from these fires, the water was turned on. That is because of the pressure campaign he put on state and local officials there who clearly lack all common sense. And I will never forget being at that roundtable with the president last week and hearing the frustration in the voices of Pacific Palisades residents who feel as though their government has just gone insane. Before President Trump showed up on the scene, Karen Bass was telling private property owners that they would have to wait 18 months to access their private property. So this administration, the president and his team that's on the ground in California, Rick Grinnell, who he has designated to oversee this great crisis, it will continue to put pressure on Karen Bass and state and local officials to allow residents to access their properties. This is a huge part of it. These residents want to take part in their own clearing out of their properties. They should be able to do that. It's the United States of America. What happened to our freedom? Clearly it's gone in California, but not anymore under President Trump. April.
Caroline, welcome to the briefing room.
Thank you.
Several questions. One on the pause. Will minority serving institutions, preferably colleges and universities, have those monies held back temporarily at this moment?
Again, I have not seen the entire list because this memo was just sent out. So I will provide you all with updates as we receive them, okay?
Also, secondly, when it comes to immigration, there is...
Did you hear that stupid question again about the money?
What happens to those who overstay their visas? That is part of the broken immigration system. In 2023, there was a report by the Biden administration, the Homeland Security Department. It said overstays of visas were 3 times more than usual. Will there be a focus on the overstays for visas as well?
If an individual is overstaying their visa, they are therefore an illegal immigrant residing in this country, and they are subject to deportation.
And also, lastly, as we're dealing with anti-DEI, anti-woke efforts, we understand this administration is thinking about celebrating Black History Month. Have you got any word on that? Anything that you can offer to us?
As far as I know, this White House certainly still intends to celebrate, and we will continue to celebrate American history and the contributions that all Americans, regardless of race, religion, or creed, have made to our great country. And America is back. Christian Dayton.
Thanks, Caroline. Just real quick, you mentioned the inflation executive order the president signed, but egg prices have skyrocketed since President Trump took office. So what specifically is he doing to lower those costs for Americans?
Really glad you brought this up, because there is a lot of reporting out there that is putting the onus on this White House for the increased cost of eggs. I would like to point out to each and every one of you that in 2024, when Joe Biden was in the Oval Office or upstairs in the residence sleeping, I'm not so sure, egg prices increased 65% in this country. We also have seen the cost of everything, not just eggs. Bacon, groceries, gasoline have increased because of the inflationary policies of the last administration. As far as the egg shortage, what's also contributing to that is that the Biden in the Department of Agriculture directed.
All right, again, I just want to focus back to what you yelled out there a second ago to everybody. You know, it's disheartening that people are so unfocused. They're an embarrassment to their profession. You know, they have no professionalism left. I mean, it seems to be some type of blatant attack set up again in the deep state. The same that happened in the church where, you know, a reverend pointed her finger at our president of the United States, twisting words to make him, look at things different. But we do have problems also, where people engage in false marriages. And then you have someone that comes here, they get pregnant, and then they are granted citizenship over it. These things need to be readdressed. We also need to address the student exchange programs on how we do things with them, because many of them never left our country. This was not something that happened recently. It's been happening for the past decades, all being set up to this point in day where we are now, that so many are here and have been here or got an illegal citizenship somehow. And the deep state was always about, the swamp was always about helping them and this venue of this day to come by opening the gates and opening the border and letting control go to everyone else in the United States while the justice system fails. I think she's spot on so much here. It's pathetic. And again, she's holding herself strong, and I love her to death. There's other things that were brought up, like, let me just go back here that Dave said. I think it was actually reflecting part of the birthright, where Dave says birthright citizenship that Trump refers to is like anchor babies. Yeah, to be used. Exactly. That's the whole thing. That's the gray area loopholes that they're talking about, why Trump cannot do what he's doing, because they allowed this to happen, because they were the ones of a different control. And now we have a man who's a president trying to correct all these different scenarios that have just gone hog wild in America. And how do you not stop everything to get a grasp on it at some point? I'm going to answer the question one more time for her, with her, that open your damn ears and close your damn mouth. She's answered you 6 times. Things have to transpire to take place to make America great again. And if we can't just hold our breath for a few moments to let things like this start to activate and happen, then we're going to be right back where we started from. Biden land, the gone, the land of the lost, the one that couldn't make it up the stairwell. Okay? And we don't need that. We need to make America stronger for every individual here that has citizenship. They seem to have lost focus in journalism about that. They're an embarrassment. Go ahead, guys.
You nailed it right there. Yep. Go ahead.
The mass killing of more than 100 million chickens, which has led to a lack of chicken supply in this country. Therefore,
and isn't that amazing? I'm sorry. Isn't that freaking amazing that we had to take out 100 million chickens because the government and Biden said so? And isn't it really amazing that they were only infected thousands of miles apart? I mean, how did it spread? Did the chicken fly? No. If they can fly, yes, they can. Okay, not that long. It would never happen. So aerosol, 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 weaponry, sky cocktails. That's how they make stuff like this happen.
This is an example of why it's so incredibly important that the Senate moves swiftly to confirm all of President Trump's nominees, including his nominee for the United States Department of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, who is already speaking with Kevin Hassett, who's leading the economic team here at the White House, on how we can address the egg shortage in this country. As for costs, I laid out the plethora of ways that President Trump has addressed saving costs for the American people over the past week. He looks forward to continuing to doing that in the days ahead. Thank you guys.
Our Medicaid portal.
Yeah.
And that is it.
Give her a hand, honestly. Give her a hand. That was fascinating, you know? That's fighting for America, standing your ground, and just being a person of strength that she is. And I'm looking forward to how this is going to rock and roll down the highway. I'm serious. I'm getting ready to turn up my volume, put on some really good music to hear her voice again. She's going to be a motivation to America.
Yeah, she is.
She's going to be a motivation. Great pick, Mr. President. Great pick.
Yep. And if that's it, that's a long show. Anything else before I jump off?
It was a long and great show. A lot of people came in and out. I would just like to say thank you, Randy. Thank you, Chuck. I mean, you know, it was something different, you know, that I normally don't do, but I'm glad we took this approach. It's about time that things like this happen better, stream better, get across to people more.
Yeah, I understand.
I hope you guys actually share to your groups as well. We'll get it out there. We'll get it strong. Things are going to happen. I don't know how often she's going to go to the podium.
Yeah.
But I would foresee that it's going to happen a lot more than less, and there's always going to be a better part of news. So I'll end it. I'll end myself with that. Randy, go ahead.
I just said I understand that the audio was very clear to the people as opposed to what it was last time. I think last time when I was having the streaming issue with the echo, it was because of my microphone. So I did figure that part out. And from my understanding from the people watching the show, the audio was very good.
Yeah, it was crystal clear. It really was. Everything about tonight went really well. Maybe a little bit of something is happening. I know it hasn't been, not all the time. I still see some mysterious things happen that run through Facebook and YouTube and so forth. But again, I'll do my best on this end to get it out to as many groups as I can to, you know, to increase awareness about the things. And as I said, everybody, don't forget about what we talked about at the beginning of the show if you missed it. The city of Pittsburgh, what's going on? The fact that we do have cells of the deep state left all through America, even sometimes very small, but there are people everywhere on the left and the right, and it's the ones on the left that we need to worry about that are probably having secretive meetings of how anyway and how that they can somehow disrupt the order as we keep going forward. You can expect anything, and the only best way to say it is believe anything's possible. But please reflect back to the first, because the reason the first moments of the shows talk about a system of a down that could affect a networking of what the sanctuary cities do and are and what they represent, and they're very nefarious and negative. But if they are allowed to get away with what they're trying to start, it'll grow like a virus. It'll disrupt everywhere. It'll be eminent domain. It'll be other people's running governments the same way they wanted the WHO and the WH and all these other different WE, all these other scenarios that they wanted, where we would no longer have control over a health pandemic. They would have control. This is the same thing, having control over your life. So it's very important that people do focus at the beginning of the show. Go back to it. Please listen. There's a lot of very important information there. And you've got to stand your ground for your neighborhood, for your schools, for your hospitals, for your programs, for your formats, everything that is essential to us, not to them. The things that work, even though they may not feel normal, but are normal.
Agreed. Oh, absolutely. Hey, I want to thank you for sending me
thanks,
the
man.
invite, and
Yeah.
I'm glad I was scrolling and got the message, that you were on. So
Yeah.
I joined in there, and great show.
Yeah, I
I'm
guess
glad I'm glad you showed her putting the coals to the press this time instead
Oh,
of
yeah.
the opposite way around. And
if
no,
I
it's good. It's just
if I had
real good.
any if I had any criticism, I would say that I think she needs to I don't say slow down, but she has a lot of energy. And I know it's her first time out, and she probably has some nervousness going on. But I don't want her exerting her energy, too soon, because she needs to, because it is a lengthy conversation. But I mean, she was going, bat out of hell there, and I just don't want her, burning up too soon. I
Don't burn
also
yourself out.
I also want to, the fact that we were able to do this tonight is a testament to, my Comcast business internet. I had to increase the speed a year ago and increase the strength and a new computer, the whole new setup. So that's what's helping to create these much better, clearer broadcasts. And as long as I can afford to do it, we'll keep doing it. Folks, I think Michael and I are going to be doing some more shows together. We've been talking about doing different things. So be watchful in the Facebook pages for any type of updates or any type of collaboration between the two of us.
Yeah, we are going to have some people. But before you go, I want to ask you a question. After hearing about the drones, because you and I have been going back and forth on this for a long time. I was telling you the whole time they were ours. How do you feel about it? Do you still think that they were ours, or they're somebody else's? Because the FFA knew whose they were.
Yeah, I love my president, and I think he's holding some back. I still believe you saw the video, and again, you have to take in consideration, where some of that video is coming from. It's a CGIA, it's CGI. But for the ones who were actual live, broadcasting, when they're flying overhead, I mean, it looked like freaking airplanes, huge airplanes. They're still the size of a freaking bus. Just flying overhead, doing this, doing that, doing. I still think that mixed within that were other, I would say, space alien drones. But the fact that they're going out into the ocean and dropping down into the water and then coming back out. I mean, we're talking some heavy duty, expensive drones, if that's the fact. So I'm thinking our military, I'm thinking some Chinese stuff going on. I didn't say what the research drones were researching, because he said that some of the drones were for research purposes. What we're researching,
Yeah,
I think,
and possibly when Eisenhower said that we had a force to reckon with of a different form that he referred to as the deep state, maybe that was part of the breakaway technology of why a lot of people came from Germany as scientists and so forth, and they went to the Antarctic. I mean, who knows where they're really flying out of? But it seems that there was a flight pattern. If the FAA knew about it, somebody filed paperwork. I'm going to work on that part for you. And again, is this going to answer every question? No. Was something else watching us? Is something else amongst us? That's very possible. I know I have my own encounters with things, and I can't tell you, even though I could have threw a rock at one, that I could tell you whose it was. I don't have that answer. I don't have that answer. I could never answer it honestly publicly, and I won't. Again, it was a great show. Well, let's put up this last couple comments here. We still have a few people in. I want to thank you all for joining us. Hope you like and share everything. Barbara came in. From her perspective, it seems like she's saying that she did good. She had answers to the questions, and I guess you know exactly what she's saying. She did her best job. She really did, and her performance spoke for itself. Jenny Berry, I love you, girl. You know I do. Say hello to Joe. Did you guys hear about the smart dust theory? Yeah. that they are spraying. Yeah, it's the nanoparticle. It's always been out there, that theory of context. And of course, it's an intelligence that can actually create its own intelligence. So just to say that it can manifest, it's hard to fathom when these things are so microscopically small but so intelligent. How does that information get into them? What gives them life? It's hard to say. I don't know all the scientific breakdown on it, but I think it comes from an alien source of information, education, and technology, and somebody has it in their hands. So even though we're getting out and walking away from the climate, what is it, Paris climate and all this stuff, it's going to take a while to shut it off because I'm still seeing the sky cocktails being drawn, but that doesn't mean we're out of the game yet. Sometimes there's contracts that have to end. Like I said, it's going to take us a year to leave this. Well, this may be the long game to what we have to do also, because I would rather see nothing more than Mr. President Trump say, ground these planes, ground these drones, ban these articles that they're using, confiscate these materials. And maybe, just maybe, between people like Kash Patel and all these other fascinating Elon Musk's, all the eyes and ears that he now has around him, that they're working on these things that we want them to do just like that. With that said, guys, thanks for your final comments. Chuck, love you to death. Randy, same, and we'll talk. Please get in touch with me tomorrow. We'll figure it out because we don't want to trample on too many toes. But again, delivering good content, strong content, the content that will open people's eyes to make them look, I am all down with that. So, Randy, have a great night. And out there in TV land, podcast land, internet land, thank you so much from Oracle Talk Radio, America Disclosing Uncensored. I am Michael Anthony. With me tonight, my guest was Randy Rhodes. Our co-host guest who came in to help out was Chuck, the chainsaw.
Yep. Take care, guys.
You guys all have a great night. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you. Till next time.